Sup? What's happening? Thought I'd just jump on, do a little quick stream, not a long one, just a quick update on what's happening with Bitcoin in the market. What's up, Radium Design? To money. Yes. Yes, Reese, I am making too much money. So, what's up, DC Woodworking and Jimmy Johnson? How are you, mate? This is a very odd time for me to be streaming. I know I don't usually stream at this hour, but I thought I'd jump on and just share a little bit of an analysis on where we're currently at, and starting with, let's go out to like the daily chart for Bitcoin and check out this cluster of days. So right here, what the hell's going on? Like, what are we expecting out of this? So there is a bit of a trend line going on the bottom side. So I'm just going to draw that in. Now these lows here, these wicks, will basically show where that trend line needs to be put. It's going to be something like this. I'm going to make it like, oh, maybe I'll just make it white, that's fine. But if I go down to the 4-hour chart, you might be able to see a bit more activity. Yeah, okay, so I think that's relatively where we want to have that line. And I want to see if there's any kind of range that we're dealing with. Like, is there a price range that exists that we need to be aware of? Just so we can track if we fall outside of it. Either break out the top or fall out the bottom. So from I guess on the 4-hour chart, can sort of see a couple of different ranges here. There's like we've got a bit of a consolidation box at around this level here. Something like this. I'll make this a different color. And also, oh, it's a bit dark. So you're seeing me like draw this up live. Of course, I don't have this pre-drawn, but I just had this idea of establishing where our ranges currently are, and then we've got another one built directly on top of that, so that we broke into it over here, and the top of our range is the highs, so just a touch under 28,000. We may as well call it 28. Sorry, 38, not 28. 38 grand, about there, and the bottom of which, yeah, the top of the previous. So these are the boxes we're working with. We've got a trend line established, and now we just need to figure out where to from here. There was a bit of activity, or there is a bit of activity outside these ranges, so I'm going to cover those as well. We've had this, and we've had this. So these, I feel like these two, although they did see action outside of the range, they are not representative of the range. Like that, they're not the they are not what define the range at all. You need to see a little bit more activity off multiple points of price to establish the highs and the lows. So, but this, yeah, this trend line here, this rising trend, I think that's pretty secure in the spot that it's in. And we've got a line of resistance, of course, up top. So this is an ascending triangle, which seems to be playing out more so in this location here. So from about here to here, that's more what we're working with as our ascending triangle. And the nature that we've come up into that ascending triangle has been in a strong uptrend as well. So that's something to pay attention to and to keep in mind when you're thinking about which side's going to break. So from a technical perspective, this resistance line up here is more likely to be the line that breaks instead of the support. But that's not the whole story. Like that's not what we put all of our importance into. Just going to turn that music down a bit, it's distracting me. Okay, I'm just going to check on the hourly if we can see any. There's no real. We're very much inside this range box here. We haven't really left just yet. Now, if I grab this line and duplicate it, like so, you can see that there is like a topside trend as well that's going on, something like that roughly. It's hard because you want to encompass as much action as possible, and it would be nice to include these peaks here to touch that line, but I think we've certainly got it covered here, 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 and here. And it's very parallel. It's almost perfectly parallel to the line that we have at the bottom. So we have an ascending channel, basically. Now, if I open up the oscillators from here, I'm just going to see if they give us any hints as to what might happen, or like what side has more strength than the other, up or down. I'm going to delete this triangle because that's a bit distracting as well. Okay, so I'm going to jump back out to, let's see, the weekly. So when I look at oscillators, I want to start at a high time frame just to see what's happening on the higher, like the bird's eye view, basically. I might hide the price levels and the key levels for now. I'll just focus on the trend lines. So right now, Bitcoin has, from a weekly perspective, has been pushing up on all oscillators. So all oscillators are running quite hot. You can see the stochastic is just about to cross over, or is suggesting that it might cross soon enough. So the relative strength index has only just come up into the overbought region. And as we know from previous behaviors on the chart, it can stay overbought for some time, like through here, through this cycle here, where we got the 2019 high, the $14,000 high. We spent a little bit of time above that 30 level, so we've only just sort of crept up over it. So by no means is the weekly RSI suggesting that we're exhausted at this point. There could be some pullbacks, but by no means is the trend over. Like, and you know, I'll see months of downside from here, just like what happened over here yet. So there's still some upside potential. We've of course got this larger rising wedge structure in play, which recently we have really been testing the top side of that up here. So we've popped our head up outside of that rising wedge and almost invalidated it as, you know, a point of resistance. So going back to the oscillators, we've seen that the stochastic is very hot, which means it's just suggesting that the momentum has been strong. Right? Now the thing with stochastic, it can stay elevated if it needs to. If the price reflects, or if the price dictates, you know, stability up at these ranges up high, the stochastic RSI is going to reflect that, and it's going to go flat on this, just like up here. You can see there's a point where just because it came up and threatened to cross did not mean that it had to crash immediately after it. you can see a lot of these flat tops on the stochastic RSI. There's one here, there's one here. There's just a touch of one here, a little bit here too. And then all of this. This is a little bit more volatile. But yeah, you can get these moments where the stochastic has to stay elevated because of the strength in the market. What's happening, Anonymous, Johnny Sevenfold, Frank Lee, profits going well. GC Tykes Black Patrol. Hey man. Yeah, I'll have a look at XRP in a minute once I finish this Bitcoin analysis. But let's see what else. We've got the MACD. I'm not currently in a Discord at the moment. I'm just doing an off the cuff, off the Discord type stream at the moment. So yeah, look, this weekly MACD cross happened all the way back here, which seemed quite early in the piece. And even though the MACD was rising, price was declining. So that was a bit of bearish. You could say that was like a bullish divergence that we got, which resulted in a bull move, which is what we've been playing the last 9 months. So with that in mind, we've just taken another cross in momentum on the MACD. We are above the histogram, but you can see just here. Let me just go full screen for you. Okay, so right here, this is the best kind of setup for a MACD cross when it's below the histogram like this, but a cross above doesn't necessarily mean that that's not bullish. That's still bullish. That's a bullish cross. It's just not the perfect, like, best cross you can get, which is something like that. Anyway, we can see that there's a cross above the histogram up here, and we'll see what that meant in the charts. If I go back to the charts here, so it happened here. We had this. This was our push, the start of our push to the all-time high, right there. All-time high being up here. So, and that took a series of weeks to get to that point. So, if you can take that MACD cross and find out how many weeks it actually produced from that point, there were a lot of weeks. There was like at least 10, right? So if we had that, we've only sort of recently had that MACD cross over here. Let me delete this line so we can see it. On this candle here is what produced the cross. So if we have 10 weeks of action after that, that takes us out to early January. So there could be some room for movement there. All right, let's go down. So we know, yeah, like there's upside potential still on RSI, MACD, and the stochastic is suggesting that the momentum has been strong. It has currently stalled, but it has not switched to a downshift just yet. So we could still, things are still okay oscillator-wise. They do reflect that we've been moving up though. Now let's go back to the daily and see what's happened. So from a daily perspective, the stochastic RSI is actually bottomed out, or it's come back down to the bottom side. So that means the momentum has shifted, and there's been a sell-off recently, which we know was yesterday. So there was a sell. And it actually started here. So this high here is where our momentum started to fade. And the stochastic has come right back down here and reflected that. Now, the cool thing about the daily is that it's a little bit more sensitive to the price action than the weekly is. Each time we've had a dip on the stochastic RSI, it's almost, you can almost count on a move up after the dip, especially in an uptrend like we've been in, like in a bull trend, right? So all of this, I'm just circling the low stochastic points on the chart. This was actually elevated, but it was a stochastic cross to the upside. So that one, I'll still mention it because it still depicted a dip and then a push up. But look at each time, like each time produced something positive after dipping back down. You got a positive reaction once you got that switch. So here was another one here, switched up, and now we've dipped back down. Could this mean that we're in line for another push? Like, is there enough momentum and space for a stochastic to push up? And yeah, there is potential there. What could it also do? It could also go flat, right? Flat. Which means something like sideways and get a bit more, before then maybe moving up and getting hot, like later on into December. So that's the daily perspective. The RSI, just the standard RSI, not the stochastic, but the RSI I can see has got these squiggles, has got a little bit of bearish divergence going on because you've got a peak here and then all of the subsequent peaks have been lower on RSI. And then if you look at price, we've got higher peaks going on. So that's bearishly divergent, which does suggest that there could be a bit of a pullback on the cards. So we have to be careful of that too. We have to be open to that possibility. But so far, like, the momentum has been strong and we are holding support up at these levels. So that's significant to me. I think, it kind of reminds me of this part of the chart here, this right here. So we had a push, we had a bit of like a rising channel, and then we had another push up to a new height. So if I compare that here, we had a push, a rising channel, and then a push recently to a new height. And then you can see what happened after that. We faded down in a trend. So that's, if we were to echo that, maybe that does take us back to 31, 30K, like down here to this area, sometime into, early mid-January. But that's assuming that we're going to get an identical reaction off the top of this trend line, just like we did back in April. We know that there wasn't the ETF hype back in April. There is now, so there's a bit more of a catalyst or a reason to stay elevated and optimistic in the market. There's different things that can influence the theme of the market and the sentiment, the overall sentiment. So that's the daily. I think there's a little bit of mixed signaling. Like you've got the MACD crossing and pointing down. So we've got like this threatening or looming above, like a MACD cross down for another swing down perhaps. Or you've also got, so that's kind of bearish. You've got the regular RSI with bearish divergence, so that's bearish as well. But you have the stochastic reset back to this spot here, so that's kind of bullish. They're all B words. In a minute, I'll say bull, and then the others bearish. Anyway, so that's kind of like, I don't know. There's not total clarity on the daily. Let's see. Now the 4 hour is obviously just the noise of the daily chart and the noise of the weekly chart, but it may still give some hints as to what happens next. I wouldn't bother going down too much further for like an overhead analysis of what's going to happen, because the hour, the 15, the 5, and the 1 minute aren't going to give you any significant answers to what happens on the higher time frame, and we want to know what happens on the higher time frame. So with that in mind, let's see, we're on the 4 hour chart. oscillators are kind of neutral. You've got RSI mid-range. You've got stochastic RSI kind of in the middle of the road here too. And the MACD is a little bit confused. Like it seems to be oscillating around neutral as well. So not many answers on the 4-hour chart. It's mostly the daily and the weekly that have all of the hints, or most of the hints, I would say. So at this moment, I don't blame people for being kind of confused about what happens next. Like there's no clear like indication of what comes directly next. Like, do we leave this rectangle to the bottom side, or do we push up to a new height? If I had to choose, I would say there's a room for more downside. So I think perhaps we lose this rectangle of support and come down, and perhaps maybe we test the bottom of the previous consolidation, which is just down here. That's to around 33,000 at the lowest, and and further play out that level. That's possible. So I guess I'll have to keep updating. I'll have to do a few more streams in the coming days to find out what happens outside of this box. But my call would be, I think the safer bet would be to expect a bit of a pullback, rather than expecting further upside when things are quite hot on the oscillators. Now, in saying all that, though, I don't want to rule out possibilities. Obviously, like, of course, the price will go where it wants to go. If it's gonna break out, if the volume comes out of nowhere and pushes us higher, then that's what we'll get. But from a technical standpoint, yeah, there's more of a downside suggestion than upside from here, I think. But let's see what happens with that. Now, someone said they wanted me to look at XRP real quick, so I'll do that. Okay, so XRP chart, let me open one. I'll just use let's see, maybe the Binance chart. It's good enough. I'm just looking outside. It looks like there's a storm coming. It's been extremely hot in Brisbane at the moment. But yeah. All right, let me see. You can see there's a lot of older analysis on here. We had a falling wedge, which we did a textbook breakout to the upside on, which was nice. That in turn produced a pennant, which is also bullish because we were coming from an uptrend. So bull pennant producing a bull move. Awesome. Another good trade. Now what do we have here? Now this has been wild. This was a very violent sell-off after that. This was when Ripple won that case, or made progress in that case against the SEC. So it was ruled not a security by the judge or by the courts. So that's bullish. That's excellent. That's good for everybody, not just XRP. That's good for the whole space to see a victory by XRP. So anyway, what are we working with? We've got that high there. It's quite noisy. There's a lot of movement to the upside, with the move being completely given back many times over here. Like, you've got this, it gets given right back. You got that, it gets given right back. You got this, a lot of it gets given back. This, it gets mostly given back. Like, that's probably deeper than a 50% correction on that move up. This, no different. Awesome move up, but it all got given back. All of it. There was consolidation. We've moved up pretty handsomely recently. So what do you think's next? Do we give it back? Not necessarily, right? This could be a change in the behavior, but if Bitcoin's to correct in the next like few days, or if not week or two, then yeah, you could see XRP continue this correction to some kind of Fibonacci level, perhaps. So let's see what the fibs are saying though on this move up. So if we take it from like this roughly the starting point, which is about there, go up to the high, you can see it's currently getting supported on the 0.5 fib level, which is a 50% retracement on that move. That's a pretty popular spot to find like a pivot. Much the same is when we fell from up here all the way down to here. Let's see if there's any kind of like Fibonacci answers that we can use. And yeah, it's similar again. There's been this area between the 618 fib and the 0.5, which has created the pivot like here. So we've had a pivot. That's pretty much all I got for XRP. I don't expect any kind of major moves upward in the next couple of days, unless Bitcoin punches through this resistance at 38,000. And I'm not siding with that outlook right now. I think it's going to happen eventually. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm bullish long term, but I don't think we're going to get that new high, you know, in the coming days. But let's, you know, obviously that can get invalidated. That outlook. What's up, Qui-Gon? Yeah. Yeah, storm's coming down. I'm guessing you're from the Gold Coast, the GC, GC Tyke Bike, Tykes and Black Patrol. So that's XRP, that's Bitcoin. What are the oscillators saying on XRP? I'll just go through them real quick. So we've got the weekly oscillators. Not a whole lot happening on the MACD. It's above the histogram, which suggests that it's, you know, there's bullish strength there, so that's good. We've recently had a cross up, thanks to these upticks here the last few weeks. So yeah, look, there is a lot of room for the MACD to start building. That's cool. The histogram bars are still building as well. You've got green, green, green. The price action though is kind of hinting at a possible pivot. You know, it may just be a pull, like a pullback candle on the way up. Just trying to find an example of what that looks like. You probably see them more on the daily, but you get like this kind of thing. But yeah, look, the RSI, very neutral on the weekly. It hasn't really topped out and been overbought recently, and it hasn't really been oversold recently. It's very middle of the road at the moment, XRP. So stochastically though, yep, this is reflecting the hot couple of weeks we've had in late October leading into November. You can see that reflected in the stochastic RSI. Things have been sped up. The market has raced up quite hot recently, and that you can see that from here. What's up, love, wisdom, freedom? Hey, beautiful people, it's been a long time, but I'm here. What's up? Glad you're here. Good to have you with us. So yeah, look, from a weekly perspective, XRP's kind of just, I feel like it's waiting at the starting line. You know, it's still squeezing. Like there's this, you've come down from highs like this, but you're also building higher lows like this. So there is a big squeeze that's happening, and I feel like we might punch out of it soon enough, right? Like we kind of had it back here too. Like we had this ramping down, and then like definitely toward the end here it was like squeezing. We had lows increasing, highs decreasing, lows increasing, so squeezing, and then bam, an explosion out of that. So that's kind of what it's doing for me. It's what I can see. So I think, look, there's a lot of potential with XRP. You just have to be patient for it to play out. Yeah, that's pretty much all I really wanted to cover. Just mainly Bitcoin to identify the ranges that it's currently in. These range boxes rather. In a previous stream, I had a couple of different boxes drawn out, but they don't seem to be on this chart. I think they're on a different chart. Let me see if I can find them. It might have been this chart here. And I must have deleted them. That's all right. Anyway, I'll clear all that. This is the index, Bitcoin index. Oh no, there they are there. There's my boxes. Okay. So these are much bigger macro range boxes. And you can see there is potential for us to come up to the next fib level, which is the 0.5 fib at 42,200. That could happen soon. We could get, it come up here and feel out the top of that range before being rejected, maybe coming back down, maybe coming up again into the halving, toward the halving. So the halving's coming up around April of next year, roughly around here. Could we be further up into that? Yeah, we could. Could we have corrected before it and then build up into it? Yeah, that's also possible. There's so many different scenarios, right? But I guess the point is that overall, from a high time frame, the trend is up. Look, there's a low, there's a higher low, there's a double bottom of lows, so that's all structure intact. We have not broken down, and we're currently on a push up. Like we've had push-ups here, 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 and here, and we're kind of like between two big fib levels right now, the 0.5 and the 382. We've definitely made progress through that 382 fib level on the macro. So yeah, I don't see why we can't shoot up, even if it is just a wick, to get us to this 422, 42,200. Is it going to happen in November or in December? I don't know. Like it really could happen tomorrow for all we know. Because sometimes these price moves just seemingly explode out of nowhere. Like they just happen. Something happens. Either a news event happens and we get the result, or yeah. So that's my more macro outlook. I'm still very bullish. It's still an uptrend. There's so much anticipation for the ETF approval, which is still pending. There's a lot of different ETFs trying to get that spot Bitcoin through. Spot Bitcoin ETF through. What else? We've also got the halving. So these are two really big catalysts and reasons to be moving up. So historically, halvings have been a bullish feature in Bitcoin's history. Every time we get a halving, I'll show you why. So the ETF is one thing, but look, we've moved up. We've been $69,000 with Bitcoin, and that was without an ETF. So we don't have to have an ETF necessarily to get a bullish move. But something that has worked in the past has been halvings, and that's these vertical yellow lines here. So there has been 3 key halvings in Bitcoin's history so far, and one is coming up next year. So you can see what happens into and directly after a halving. So you've got rallying into and then a continuation after, rallying into, continuation after. COVID happened right prior to a halving, but we rallied into it. That was, we recovered that crash into the halving, and then we rallied afterward as well. So they've been positive. Historically, 3 major examples of positive action before and after, directly before and after the halving. So I think that's catalyst enough for Bitcoin to move higher from here. Or at least, you know, get the market moving higher. Is Bitcoin going to go beyond $100,000? I don't know about that. That's yet to be seen. But revisiting 70k, revisiting the all-time high, $69,000, is a lot more possible, I suppose, obviously, than, you know, once we visit that, then we can look at maybe how the momentum's going and if we can actually get movement up to 100. But I'm not so on board with people targeting like 250 or 300k. You know, that's a bit more of a stretch. So much would have to happen for that to be a fact. You can already see that the performance is slowing down each push up, and that's the nature of the logarithmic view on things. Like it's sort of tapering off as the higher we go. But from a linear perspective, look how small this previous all-time high was, all the way down there. This one looks very small compared to our last one. So what's going to happen next that dwarfs our current all-time high and makes it look like that? Could we get, you know, is it going to exponentially expand up to like 150k? And then, you know, we get our bear market. Is that going to happen? Is that possible? It is quite possible, yeah. Logarithmically, it doesn't even look that impressive. Like it's like, oh yeah, it's just a little higher. But look, that's what can be deceptive about looking at things through a logarithmic frame. Now you can probably see the boxes that I drew in one of the previous bull runs. Like this was like a 3-year bull run. But look at the way it started. Off the back of a bear market, you had these building blocks. You had 4 pretty significant building blocks. And this is kind of what I've been tracking with these ones that are built, that seem to be building right now. Like if we get any kind of repeated behavior like this, then I don't see why we can't explode up in price. You know, why not? Why not? Once again, rally into the halving. Yes, there was a pullback, but overall, the trend was alive, and we rallied after the halving too. And boy, did we rally back then. It was massive. Look at how far up we came. Up, 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 up. We came up to $20,000. There's the high. Massive. Very big run. So anyway, that pretty much wraps it up, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I wanted to keep this short and sweet. This has been 40 minutes, probably a bit longer than I intended on. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you on the next stream, and maybe even by then we'll have an answer to this question, this consolidation box. Remember, my call is that we come down and at least maybe test the bottom of this box. All right, I'll see you then, guys. Have a good night. Have a good day wherever you are. Bye.